Hi, and welcome to Transformation Tuesday. I'm Coach Shannon, and I'd like to thank you for tuning into our video series where I'm making a transformation or change in your life. We are on week 4 of our series. Yes, it's been an entire month. And today we're going to be focusing on obstacles and what we do and how we respond when we face them. But before we get started, I just want to recap the last 3 weeks. So if you recall, week 1, we focused around getting our mindset in the right place because our thoughts drive our feelings, which drive our actions. And in order to make changes in our actions, we have to change our mindset. I gave you some exercises to help you with building perspective and helping you to look at things through a more positive lens. And today you're going to see why that's so important. The second week we looked inward and we really focused on our values and designing our moral compass that we'll use to align our actions and our behaviors along the way. This will also help us to determine if we're going down the right path or if we need to make adjustments along the way. Week 3, last week, we got into the kind of the meat and potatoes of making a change, and that was around goal setting and making sure that we're setting good, actionable goals, but also making sure that we're tapping into that core motivation around why we're making that change. Because today we're going to be talking about why that's useful. So today we're going to talk about obstacles and what we do when we face them. Many people set out to make changes, and all too often they end up giving up at the first sign of trouble. You know, life is full of challenges, life is full of obstacles, and I've always subscribed to the philosophy that anything that's worth something is going to require some work and you're going to face obstacles along the way. But when you overcome those obstacles, you grow in ways that you can't imagine, and that can help you achieve so much more in life as you move forward. So today we're going to talk about some strategies that we can use on when things don't go our way. There's typically 5 reasons why people tend to fail when they're embarking in a change, 2 of which I've already prepped you for, and then there's 3 that are a little bit new, and we'll talk about some strategies that you can use to cope and overcome some of those challenges. So the first reason why people tend to fail when they set out for a change is that negative self-talk. It's those thoughts that they have in their head that they aren't good enough, they're not strong enough, or they don't have the discipline that it takes to be successful. Now, we talked about how to combat some of that negative self-talk when we talked about perspective. It's important to listen to that negative talk and acknowledge that it exists, and then it's just as important to squash that negative self-talk with some really positive thoughts, because you know what? You are strong enough, you are disciplined enough, and you can absolutely make whatever changes you set your mind out to make. The second reason why people tend to fail in change is around motivation. I mean, let's face it, if we aren't motivated to make a change, we're not going to do the work that's required because it's hard work and it takes an effort. And we're not going to put forth effort for something that we're not motivated to do, which is why I made sure that when we talked about goals, that we spent some time talking about our core motivation, because sometimes the obstacles that we face are going to be tough. And we're going to have to dig deep to think to ourselves, why are we doing this? Why did I decide to do this again? And the answer really falls in the motivation. And so being able to draw from that to get the motivation to put that step in front of the other is going to be a really great tool that you can use to overcome an obstacle. The third reason why people tend to fail in change is fear. This is something I struggle with personally too, right? It's the fear of failure or the fear of the unknown. So let's talk about the fear of failure. It's going to happen. Everybody fails. Everybody makes mistakes. The important thing is that you pick up the pieces and you try again. So go into it expecting that you're going to fail on some days. That doesn't mean that you're going to fail overall. It just means that you had a bad day. And so you start over the next day and you make progress towards that goal. Now, fear of the unknown is a little bit different, right? Because we don't know what to expect. I was working with a client who wanted to go back to school. Graduate school, had not been in an academic environment for 30 plus years. Well, we know how quickly things change in any type of environment, let alone an academic environment. And so her concerns around going back to grad school were around the unknown. Am I going to be able to keep up in the classes with the technology and the tools that they're using? Came from a time where we had textbooks and notebook paper, and now people are having iPads and computers. Am I going to be able to connect with the people in the classes, or are there going to be such an age difference that I'm not going to be able to relate to anybody, and so on and so forth. The best way to get started when you're dealing with the fear of the unknown is to break things down into smaller steps. And so what I told her is I said, we can focus on all of those things and how to combat some of those fears, or we can focus on some of the smaller things. Like, let's start with the application and filling out the application and getting accepted into grad school and the essay that goes along with it. And then we'll focus on signing up and picking that right first class for you. And then we'll talk about how to connect with a guidance counselor or some other professor that can help to reintroduce you into the academic environment. And so once we chunked those out into much smaller things, she was able to make those steps, and she gained confidence with each one of those steps, and then the next step wasn't so scary. It was a really great way to be able to combat some of that fear of the unknown. The fourth reason why people tend to fail at change is time. I mean, let's face it, everybody is busy. There aren't enough hours in the day to do the things that we need to do, let alone the things that we want to do. And again, it comes down to breaking things into reasonable chunks. I have a 15-minute rule. And so what I say is we can absolutely dedicate 15 minutes of our day towards making progress in our goal. So if we focus on that, there's a lot you can get done in 15 minutes, right? You can run a mile in 15 minutes. You can prep a meal in 15 minutes. You can put together a fridge full of healthy snacks that you can grab and go when the going gets tough and things get rushed. You can spend 15 minutes learning a few words in a new language, or perhaps a few new notes on a guitar. Whatever the goal is that you're wanting to work towards, you can dedicate 15 minutes a day to that. And that is actually a substantial amount of time. And when you have more time to dedicate to it, you can dedicate more time. But if you can at least commit to the 15 minutes, then you're going to feel like you're making progress along the way. The fifth reason why people tend to fail at change is other priorities. I mean, things get in the way. And I experience this a lot with clients that I coach who are working moms. Everyone else, right? They're taking care of everybody at work. They're taking care of everybody at home, and they very rarely spend time taking care of themselves. And what happens is their priorities tend to be put on the back burner. What I tell people is a thing I learned a long time ago, and that is you have to make yourself a priority before anybody else will make you a priority. You have to take care of your own needs, because if you do, and you spend that 15 minutes a day or however long making progress towards that, you're going to be a happier person, which makes you a better parent. It makes you a better employee. It makes you a better manager if that's what you do. And it makes you feel overall like a better person, and it makes you feel like you're growing, and it can put you in a great mindset. So whatever it takes to make your goal a priority, do it. If it takes telling the world so that you have accountability or you have an accountability partner, then do it. If it means hiring a coach that will sit across from you every week and ask you what kind of progress you've made on your goals, then by all means do that. If you need to set reminders for yourself on your phone or post-it notes, then do that. Or pick a picture that helps to represent the motivation around why you're wanting to make the change. Whatever it takes, make that a priority and then commit to it and stick with it. And you're going to be so much happier that you did that. So let's face it, even if we do all of those things, nobody's perfect and we're going to have bad days, right? We're going to make mistakes. We're going to fall off the wagon. And that's okay. The key is to make sure that you don't beat yourself up over it. You also have to remember that one setback is not a complete failure, and that every day is a new day to reset and try again, to continue to make progress on your goal. So when you do fall off the wagon or put your goal on the back burner, then know that that next day you need to make a priority above all else and try to get back on track. There's going to be mistakes you're going to make. There's going to be people who are going to doubt you. And there's going to be things that aren't going to go your way. But I will tell you, with hard work, there are no limits. So with that, have a great week.